everybody. So here is my scientific investigation on Align Lab. It just says download it, turn it back in. It's worth 5 points. Here is a Zoom link for my office hours next week if you want help with this or with the other lab that we're going to do. But if you can click here, you will download this lab. Get a little preview going on. Oh, good, it's wonky. Perfect. Anyway, this is what the lab looks like. And it defines science. It goes through a little introduction, talks about the steps of the scientific method, which you hopefully are already familiar with. Then it has purpose of today's lab. You might want to work on that one after you are done with the lab. I just want you to tell me what you think the reason we did this stuff was. Talks about some basic metric conversions we got going on here. Then it says temperature of your house in degrees Celsius. So in your kit, there's going to be a cheesy looking little thermometer. Let me get this thing out. It looks something like this. I didn't realize these things are going to be so not great. But anyway, that is your thermometer to use for that part. You can also use it, try to use it to take the temperature of some tap water. And then I want you to go ahead and get the mass of a penny. Now, hopefully, if I did my job right, which, but if I did my job right, you should have all gotten a little mini scale like this. You can just open it up. And a lot of us got different kinds. This one in particular comes with some batteries, a little scale inside a bag. I do need these back, by the way. But you should be able to just pop the top off, and that'll give you your little scale and your weighing surface. Just put that down, turn it on. It should read 0, and you can weigh stuff out. Apparently, if you press M, that tars it or sets it back to 0. Oh no, M changes the unit. Of course, it changes the unit. Pressing power again sets it back to 0. And we're going to use this a few times throughout the semester. This is just your first shot at it. So there is your scale. Get the mass of a penny. Get the mass of 100 pennies. What I would do is I would just take the mass of that 1 penny and maybe multiply it by 100, because I don't even think people have like 100 pennies. Figure out the mass of a small glass, of a shot glass, or a small cup of water. These things aren't, these little scales aren't super high sensitivity, or I shouldn't say sensitivity. They don't have a huge range on them. So you're going to have to use something pretty small. And then figure out the mass of 5 mils of alcohol by just tarring whatever container you're using. And then please pour that back into the container. By the way, the alcohol you guys have is completely undrinkable. It will make you very sick if you drink it. So don't get any smart ideas. Diameter or penny, it should be diameter of penny. Find a ruler, find a tape measure, figure out what the diameter of that penny is, and then figure out the length of your index finger in centimeters, and figure out your height in centimeters. If you don't have a device that's large enough to measure your height, that's okay. I think most of us know how tall we are. Just convert your height in feet and inches into centimeters. Okay, we have a few more questions here, estimating some volumes. So let's go ahead and open up this link. And this has all of our data in it for our height and for our finger length. These are students I've made up so that the first person who does this can actually get some data going. And so, by the way, I'm not sure how clear this is to you guys, but especially in 2020, it's sort of extremely important that we all be able to share data with one another, even though we aren't in the same place. And programs like Sheets and different databases are incredibly important in doing that. And so that's part of what we're going to learn in class this semester. So I've protected a lot of the sheet, so you might not be able to edit it. So what you could do is you can just go ahead and press Control A inside this sheet, and then Control. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and grab all these data here, and then I'm going to go Edit, Copy, and we're going to go to Sheets.new, and I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Thank you, Google Sheets. Just paste, please. Kind of makes you wonder why they even have that as an option to click that. But anyway, pasted our data in. So let's do that one more time. I pressed and held Control, and then I pressed A at the same time, which selects everything. Then you press and hold Control and press C, go over to your new sheet. Press and hold Control and press V, and it should, in time, once this thing is done lagging, bring everything over. Okay. So eventually there's going to be a lot of data here, and so it's going to be very difficult to sort of do some of these statistics by hand. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make Excel, or we're going to make Google Sheets calculate stuff for us. And hopefully you find this to be so easy that you'll use this in other applications in your life other than just class. But we want to figure out what our average height is in centimeters. So I'm going to go over here to F2, and I'm just going to click in there double click in there, I guess. Click until the little cursor thing shows up. Okay, and we're going to write a function in Excel or in Sheets or whatever these programs you're using, OpenOffice, whatever it happens to be. And the way we write a function in these is you start with the equal sign. So you hit equals, and we're trying to take an average of the class heights, right? So let's just start typing average. Oh, there it is. There is our function. So let's do that again. Equals average. And then the next thing you need when you're writing a function in Sheets or Excel is you need an open parentheses. And it's going to try to give you some hints about the things that need to be in here. For us, then there's a few different ways you can do this, but I'm just going to go and click on C2 and just drag it down. I mean, really, I didn't even need to do that. That was actually too much. So actually, I'm going to go equals average, and we'll just open parentheses. We'll just select the data that's actually here, 176.8. Or another way you can do it is you just type equals average and then do C through C. So that is C:C, close parentheses, and it gives you all that data. And then now if somebody updates this, it will update those numbers as well. Okay. Get rid of our fake data. So class average finger length is right here. So I'm going to double click here in G2, and let's calculate the average finger length for our class. So I'm going to say equals average. And remember, you can either click and drag and grab all the data, or you can just tell Sheets where it lives, which is technically D2 through D7. If you do D through D, it's just going to get everything in that column, which is honestly fine too. So let's get on to the part that people are probably scared of, the standard deviation. This is biology 1, this is not statistics, okay? I'm not going to ask you to calculate a standard deviation, so don't worry about that. But I will ask you to make Excel calculate a standard deviation, okay? And the way you do that is, remember how we start a function, equals, and I'm just going to start typing standard, I think it's STDEV. And we're going to get all the same data that we put into our height, which is just this data right here. Alternatively, you could say equals STDEV C through C, or you could do C2 through C7 if you want. But let's just grab it again. So I click here and I drag down and just get these data. Okay, let's calculate our finger length standard deviation equals STDEV. We'll just do D through D. Lots of ways that this can be done. But there you go. Here's your height. Here's your class average finger length. And here are your standard deviations. Next here. So there's some questions about raw data versus calculations. All All right, students averages. Okay, so some good questions here. Using the raw data, so not the calculated data, to plot each of the students' height and finger length, paste the chart below. So we'll go back to our data here. And what we're going to do is we are going to chart height versus finger length. So what we really want is we want height to be on the x-axis and we want finger length to be on the y-axis. So let's just grab our data here. So you just click B1 and you hold the mouse down and you grab everything. The other way you could do this is I'm in this B1 column and I'm holding the shift key and I'm just using the arrow keys to select this data. Anyway, select this data however you want to do it. And we're going to go to Insert right here at the top, and we're going to go down to Chart. So again, select our data, Insert, Chart. Okay, so kind of a weird looking scatter plot. That's not really what we want. I think what we want is we don't want names. We want finger length on one and height on the other. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this, and we're just going to grab height and finger length now. And again, we'll go back to Insert and Chart, and this looks more like what I'm expecting. So as you can answer the question is, as height increases, does finger length also increase? And you might see a little bit of a trend here. I'm not sure, but this is okay. This is what I'm looking for. Oh, and it says paste it. So there's some edits, maybe some stuff you should do, but let's just paste this in. Generally, always go paste unlinked when you're pasting from one doc to another. Paste that in. It looks pretty good. So tall people have longer fingers. Do you think this hypothesis is correct or incorrect? And can you determine that based on this chart? It's for you guys to figure out. What test did the class do to test this hypothesis? How could the experimental methods been improved? That's all questions for you. Describe or draw what your graph would look like if tall students had shorter fingers. So what I mean by that is, what would our chart look like if, you know, let's just get some really tall people in here. Oops. Enter. Reasonably tall people, and we'll give them stubby little. Two's a little too small. So what does this chart look like is kind of that next question, and I'll just go ahead and show you. And this is kind of an interesting trend, right? If you're taller, your fingers are shorter, which would be kind of weird. But that is the question. We're going to determine, hopefully, maybe we'll learn something about finger length and height. What would it mean about the hypothesis if your points were scattered randomly for you guys to answer? And then here's some basic metric conversions for you guys to work on. If you aren't getting these pretty quickly and they take you a few minutes, I would probably do some extra. I really kind of want you guys to have a sense of how these things work. They're pretty easy. And as hopefully you'll see, the metric system is pretty fantastic. Okay, I think that's all I had to say about this particular lab. As always, shoot me any questions if you guys have them.